Welcome to the Bolt Podcast. I'm Todd Birch, keynote speaker, entrepreneur, and mental fitness coach. I'm here to help you unlock your leadership potential and ignite your personal growth. On the Bolt, my guests and I will dive into inspiring stories of transformation, showing how small shifts in mindset can lead to life-changing benefits. We'll explore strategies for overcoming challenges, building high-performance habits, and leading with confidence. If you're ready to embrace a growth mindset and unlock your full potential, then let's ignite your spark today. Today's guest is a master connector, a champion of relationship-driven success, and someone who's built an entire career around the power of networking. Frank Agin is the president of AmSpirit Business Connections, where he empowers entrepreneurs, sales professionals, and business leaders to grow through meaningful connections and powerful referrals. He's also the voice behind the Networking RX podcast, where he shares strategies, stories, and insights to help professionals build authentic relationships that drive success. Frank is also the author of several impactful books, and we are so excited to have him on the show today. Listeners, get ready to make some meaningful connections. Frank, welcome to the Bolt Podcast, my friend.
Thanks for having me. This is great. This is big time.
Oh, this is big time. Yeah, this is. People know me. They know I only go 110. You know?
That's good.
So gotta go in or go home, right?
Yeah.
That's so good to have you. And it's so good to have fellow podcasters on the show, right?
Because
you get it.
Yeah,
right?
No, I totally do. It's I tell people I wish I would have started 10 years ago. There's some people know of him, Lewis Howes. I don't know if you've...
Yeah, I just got his e-news today.
Okay.
Yeah.
My email's been lighting up because he was on the Mel Robbins podcast talking about his new book. Yeah. And he mentioned me, and everyone's like, "Is this you? Oh my God!"
Oh, that's right. You guys are friends.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. But he reached out to me 2012. He said, "You need to jump on this podcasting thing." And I'm like, "Oh, come on. It's just another fad, you know?"
Right.
And I'm busy with lots of things, and it was just a choice at that point in time I didn't make, and it wasn't until 2018 that I'm like, "Yeah, I really need to get onto this."
Well, that's still, though. You've been on it, and how many episodes?
I just recorded 831.
831.
Yeah. But, the best thing about it is just meeting people.
Networking.
Yeah. We wouldn't be talking but for it.
Yeah,
it's a value I can share with you, and you can share with me.
Right.
And I learn things. I'm here in your studio. It's like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to go do this, but I can maybe do that, you know, and incorporate that. So
yeah. And it's interesting the way that we got connected was through networking.
Yep, Jason.
Yeah. So I met Jason through another connection.
Yeah.
That we just got talking. He said, "I think I know a guy that might be, a good connection for you." Then we had breakfast, and then he brought up your name. I said, "Oh, I'd like to get connected to Frank." So, the power of networking. Here we are.
Yeah, I met Jason through a woman in Cyprus. We're all in the state of Ohio.
Noemi,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. And she's great.
She's helped me as well.
Yeah. Hey, you need to meet this Jason guy. I'm like, all right, ho-hum. She has great connections, but I'm looking. He's like, this guy's in Ohio. I mean, he's like down the road. I mean, 2 hours. But,
he's in Ohio.
Yeah, he's in Ohio. And so we've hit it off. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I'm excited to talk about networking, one of my favorite things.
Sure.
But I want to start off with just a little background. So you went to law school.
I did.
You were an attorney for a while.
Yeah, that's how I ended up in Columbus. I moved there to go to law school. I had no idea where Ohio State was. I had just gotten accepted. I was waitlisted everywhere and got accepted. It was June of 1984. My dad and I drove down, got an apartment, and a month later, I was in law school. Yeah. Never thought I would stay in Columbus.
Yeah. And how many years were you a lawyer?
I got into a special program at Ohio State, so I got my MBA and law degree at the same time. So that takes 4 years. So you cut a year off doing them separately. And
Nice.
88, I actually became a tax consultant with a Big Six accounting firm.
Okay.
Which is now PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Yep.
And I worked with them for 6 years and then decided to leave and go into private practice. And so I was in private practice for maybe about another 10.
Okay.
So where I stumbled into all of this.
Yeah. So what made the switch? I'm always curious about those life. That's a big transition.
Oh, it is.
You go to school and you invest
people
this
thought
time.
it was crazy. And my dad was like,
what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. Oh my God. Where do we need to check you in?
Right.
Yeah. I started this career in public accounting, which was which really was a great life by all accounts. It was a great job, great pay, glass window, corner office, kind of, all that stuff, right?
That's it. That's what you want.
Yeah, that's what you aspire to. But I just didn't want to do taxes for the rest of my life, and it's a corporate sort of a thing, and it's just a lot of late nights, checking out at the security desk and then getting back early the next morning, seeing the same security guard. He'd been there all night. It's like, oh my gosh, So I decided to leave and go into private practice, and I'll tell you. I tell people that a funny thing happened to me when I went into private practice, and the funny thing was that nothing happened. I had no idea how to get clients. My dad was a professor. I just assumed that you did well in school, got credentials, and people just hired you, and it doesn't work that way.
You just hang a shingle, and people are going to come, right? Flock.
And it's complicated as an attorney because you can't call people. You can call people, but you can't say, hey, I want, be my client kind of a thing. You
got to be careful.
Yeah. It's the quickest way to lose your license. And so I struggled, had a conversation one day with a friend who said, I asked her, she took a different path out of law school. She just started her own firm. And I just said, how do I get what you've got? And she said, why don't you get into a tips club or a leads group? Many people are familiar with the BNI out there. And I didn't know what she was talking about, but at that point, I was newly married, quasi-desperate to just become successful. And that's what drives us all.
Sure.
And so I went to this organization. It was based out of Pittsburgh. It was very similar to BNI. The woman who started it was very familiar with Ivan Meisner, who started BNI. And it made total sense to me that you could lift your whole world up by helping other people, right? We're talking, Jason Zagato, we could go on and on. What a great guy, what a great guy. But we can't sit here as humans, most humans can't, and just self-promote.
Right.
Some people can.
Yeah.
Most people can't.
Right.
So the notion of these groups is that you just start bragging about all the people in the room and trust that they're going to do the same for you. And it's not perfect. It doesn't work perfectly, but it works reasonably well. So I really doubled down on that experience and became that chapter's president, and we were doing well. Our group was doing well, and the woman in Pittsburgh was reaching out to me, hey, can you help this group? Can you help this group? I was like, yeah, this is kind of fun. At one point, I had an opportunity to be her first franchisee, and Columbus was kind of I wouldn't say a nothing market for her, but it was probably one of her smaller markets. So I became her first franchisee, and within a year, we were number one. Within 3 years, we were bigger than half her operations. And she was getting up in years. She actually passed away about 12 years ago now. So we executed a buyout. And part of the deal was I had to rebrand it. So I branded it as AmSpirit Business Connections. You as a marketing person will appreciate it. It was called Network Professionals before, which was something that could not be trademarked because it was too generic. Right. And so that meant I could have people competing against me using my name. And when I was in law school, I had come up with the name AmSpirit, which is nothing but a shortened version of American Spirit. And I have a law degree, so I figured out how to trademark it. So I had this trademark, it's mine. I'm going to start building a brand around this. But yeah, that's what got me started. And when I ultimately bought her out, I just made a decision that because I was still practicing law a little bit at that point. That's when I just, I'm stopping to practice the law. And people are like, you're what? Law schools are crapping out attorneys by the thousands every year. Me deciding not to be an attorney, no great loss. Right. What I do is very, very unique. I have competitors, I have people who do what I do, but it's unique, and I can kind of put my thumbprints all over this. So
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, good for you.
Thank you.
For taking a risk,
yeah.
Right? I think that's what we do as business owners. I'm an entrepreneur myself, and you have an idea, you see a problem, you go out and you try to solve it, but you are taking a risk, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you have a family or starting a family, it makes it a little bit more riskier. Right?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you probably look at friends who've taken different paths and said, ooh, geez, if I would have taken that. I have some friends from my tax consulting days who've done very well for themselves, but I wouldn't be happy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think it goes back to, how do you measure success? How do you define success?
Yes.
Right. So you were at a point where you were kind of, burning the midnight oil, right? You were working, I don't know, 14-hour days, and it was just like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And you weren't really enjoying life. So at what point is that success, right?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Same day, same chair, same questions,
Right.
It was just Groundhog's Day.
Right. You're not really being challenged creatively.
No.
You're not out meeting new people. So this is a whole new thing.
Yeah. Oh, the people I've met, it's, and when I sat down with my wife to go through it, and when the opportunity presented itself, becoming a franchisee and then kind of growing into it, and I told her, I said, if I continue down the path of being an attorney, I know where I'll be 30 years from now. And it's not a bad life.
Right.
But I know where I'll be.
Right.
If I take this other path, I have no idea. And that just excites me.
Oh, isn't that?
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Isn't that good stuff?
Yeah. And I've had offers early on, because they're always looking for good tax people.
Oh, yeah.
People coming out of the woodwork and offering, wow, that's a lot of money.
Right.
It's a lot more money I'm making right now. No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, what's funny? It reminds me, Frank, of a book that you wrote, Getting Out of Your Comfort Zone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can stay cozy, complacent, very prescribed. You know what that's going to look like. The house, the picket fence, the dog, spots, couple of kids, nice car.
Yeah.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
And for some people, that's fine. And nothing wrong with that, right?
No,
But for some of us,
wasn't me.
We need to get to the edge. We need to embrace discomfort.
Yeah.
Get in that zone.
Yeah.
That's where I think real growth happens, in my opinion. So good for you. And how long has that business been running?
Well, the original organization started in 93.
Okay.
So I have members who date back to 93 who are still involved in the organization.
Really? Wow.
It's crazy.
Well, that shows.
One guy met his wife through it. 3 kids. He says, I owe everything to this organization.
Right.
But I became the first franchisee in 97 and then ultimately bought it out right towards the end of 2003. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about it. How is it different than, well, first, I don't know that everybody knows what B&I is.
Sure.
That was new to me when I first came out. And It's funny. That was the first networking opportunity that somebody said, hey, you're a new business owner. You should join this. And I went to a meeting, tried it. I was like, not for me.
Sure. Yeah.
But then you have
AmSpirit,
AmSpirits. And so tell us a little bit about that, the difference, and what it's all about.
Yeah. What we do is we help create, we call them chapters, groups of entrepreneurs, sales reps, professionals, your realtor, mortgage lender, attorney, accountant, and it's one in each category. And the reason we have one in each category, and B&I is much the same, the reason we have one in each category is I want people to feel comfortable talking about their strategies. And we all have strategy. We might not think of them as strategies. Hey, I've got an in here or whatever. I want people to feel comfortable about that. And I want people to feel comfortable giving referrals. So if you and I are in a group and there's 3 other marketing people there, I'm going to feel funny about giving a referral in front of them, I don't want to feel that. I want to be, hey, I got a great referral for you, Todd. Is a great client. I was talking to them, and I think you guys will hit it off.
Right.
So it's one per category.
Okay.
And they meet every week to learn about each other, develop relationships.
Weekly. Wow. Okay.
Weekly. Yeah.
That's a commitment.
It is, but it's part of their marketing. I mean, you probably advise your clients, hey, marketing's not something we do once a month.
Right.
It's something you need to continually, everything's got to be marketing, right down to the person at the front desk. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people, when they really get ingrained in this, that is their marketing. So it may seem like a lot, but once a week they've developed relationships or continued to build relationships with people in all these different groups or different business categories. They're not doing a whole lot of other marketing. They're just servicing the referrals that they're getting. So it meets every week, and the people, they become great friends with one another. Sometimes when I go to groups, I have to remind myself that these people didn't go to high school together, but they kind of carry on like, hey, this is, we're all buddies.
Right.
But the difference, well, I can't really say what the difference between us and B&I is because I've never been in B&I. But the real focus, what I really try to get people focused on is referrals. okay, becoming close to one another is great, but I need to be able to recognize I need to be able to work with you to understand how I can recognize a referral for you. When somebody says X, okay, that's you, right? Okay,
Gotcha.
now what do I say to work you in?
Right.
And so we do a lot of work with the members in the chapters, just helping them kind of explore that. When I was an attorney, I knew everything that I did.
Right.
But for me to say, hey, I'm an attorney, send me people who need attorneys, I'm not going to get referrals.
Right.
So we try to educate people on one of the things I'll say to groups, members in groups, don't tell me what you do. Yeah, I know you're a realtor. I get it. You can say that 16 different ways and it still says the exact same thing. You broker property between buyers and sellers. That doesn't help me recognize a win. So when you tell me, hey, if you know somebody who's getting up in years and is sick of challenging the stairs, they're ripe for selling a house and getting something different. So getting the members to think differently about how they talk and how they share information with one another. And that's really, I don't want to say that's a differentiator, but that's what we're really passionate about. And other competitors want to jump onto that, more power to the world, right?
Sure. Right. Okay. How many people are in a chapter?
Our average chapter size is only about 15 or so.
Okay.
They tend to be a little smaller. I was telling a chapter this yesterday. It's like, if Elon Musk moves onto your street, the average income of everybody on the street goes up, but it doesn't affect your income, right? And so I don't want the mortgage lender and the realtor just to do a lot of business back and forth and have everyone else not get referrals. I want everybody to get referrals. And so they tend to stay smaller so we can really focus and make sure everybody's getting referrals. Todd, I've had groups that have hit 50 and they're not as productive. Bigger is not better.
Right. I wholeheartedly agree. Right. You lose that intimacy.
Yeah.
Right.
The group that hit 50, a month after it hit 50, 10 people came to me and said, we want to start our own group. It's like, really? You worked so hard to get to this point, Yeah, but it's not, we just don't know people.
Right.
People don't know one another.
Right.
And so they went and started their own group. And when I get chapters that get into the 20s, I really stop pushing on them to grow. Always look for good people, but I don't need you to be 30. I don't need you to be 40. I just need you to have the people in it be successful. Oh, and refer me other people. And so we'll start other groups.
Right. How many chapters do you have now?
I'm always the last to know. I think we're somewhere between 140 and 150.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Yeah,
and then all over the country or in a certain geographic area?
A lot in Ohio, but I've got chapters down in Mississippi, Pensacola. Things are starting to heat up in Alabama, of all places.
Okay.
Talked to a guy who's moving up to Green Bay, who's in the organization. He says, can you help me start chapters up in Green Bay?
Okay.
Bentonville, Arkansas. Colorado. I talk to people. We have a lot going on in Phoenix, a lot going on in Chicago. So it's little pockets here and there. When I first started, I'm like, okay, Columbus, Akron, Canton, Cleveland.
Right.
My first franchisee was Akron. It worked great. My second one was Phoenix, Arizona. So at that point, I'm like, who knows?
Right. So not a real strategy to say, hey, we're going to go hit this area. But if it happens.
Yeah, I'm going to go where
organically.
Yep. I'm going to go where people need help. And,
gotcha.
It's kind of like you, it's like you serve people who come to you, and you can't worry about the people who don't want your service.
Right.
So
exactly. Oh, I love that. Well, it sounds like it's been extremely successful, and it sounds like the tenure is definitely there. People get in and they stay there, which I think says a lot about the group, right?
Yeah. It's a great thing to have people who have that kind of longevity. It's it's the same thing in business. You're best to hang on to your clients as opposed to keep trying to find new ones.
Oh yeah, so it's always a lot easier.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, talking about a couple that you just mentioned, the knowing the people, right?
Yeah.
Just keeping the groups small, and you often talk about the importance of know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what that means to you in terms of foundational networking.
Yeah, people throw those words around, know, like, and trust. We do business with those who we know, like, and trust. But I interviewed a woman on my podcast, and it really kind of changed my view of relationships. And she was talking about Margaret Mead. Margaret Mead was a favorite.
Oh my gosh, I just included her in a quote that I'm going to be emceeing next week.
Okay. Yeah. Famous anthropologist.
Yeah.
She was teaching a class, and one of the students said, "What was the first sign of human civilization?" And as she's gathering herself, everybody's thinking, okay, it's fire, it's clay pots, it's webbing, maybe it's language. And she said it was a healed femur. She went on to explain that in the animal world, the femur is the bone that connects the knee to the hip. Most animals have a femur, and when an animal breaks its femur, it's a death sentence. It can't protect itself, it can't forage, it can't hunt. It's going to die, either real quick or painfully slow, but it's going to die. But when we came across the remains of humans that had a healed femur, we knew there was something different. We knew that somebody made a decision to stay behind, because it takes about 6 to 8 weeks without modern medical care for that bone to heal. And so if you stop and think about it, and as soon as when I heard that on the podcast, I had chills going up my spine. It's like, oh my gosh, there's something, I get it now.
Right.
So imagine you have 2 groups of 4 people, and one group, somebody breaks their femur, and they're like, sorry, Todd. Sorry about your luck. We're moving on. Us 3 are moving on. Well, 3 is a lot less formidable than 4, and you needed people back then to survive, to hunt, to protect yourself.
Right.
So 3 is not going to be as successful. Ultimately becomes 2, which becomes 1, and 1 becomes 0, right?
Right.
There's another group of 4 people, Todd, using you, break your femur. It's like, you know what, can't put my finger on it, but I am not leaving you. I'm going to figure out, I'm going to stay with you, I'm going to feed you, I'm going to care for you, I'm going to protect you, I'm going to keep you warm. 6 to 8 weeks later, that group moves forward with 4 people, which is a third stronger than 3, right? But it doesn't just move forward stronger, it moves forward with somebody who, in this case you, says, you know what? These people cared about me. I'm going to do the same for them. And so we as humans are just, we didn't know what we were doing, but the chance of survival, if we worked together, if we cared for one another, was more likely. And so the first group, that gene pool died. The other gene pool of people caring, that moved forward. And we just decided, okay, we're going to become civilizations. We're going to, larger communities. And that's really, I tell people, everybody is looking for somebody who is willing to stay with them when they break their metaphorical femur, right? It might not be a broken femur. It might be, when you're choosing a spouse, it's like, I want somebody who's going to be with me when I lose my job, or I have that horrible accident, or I get older in years. That's really what know, like, and trust is. Those are the types of people that we want to have. And again, and back to my organization, I see it in organization. I see it in the organization. People, they just really care about one another. It's it's a beautiful thing.
It is, yeah. I think you're talking about a culture, right?
Yeah.
Creating a culture of care.
Yeah.
And when you see that, and it's funny, Frank, I think about COVID.
Yeah.
Well, really what I've seen or what I've experienced personally is that when a group of people can go through a shared experience of, call it trauma.
Yep.
We could, I think,
Yeah.
safely say
Yeah.
COVID was traumatic, right? Some sort of an event where there's going to be some trials and tribulation, where you're going to be tested, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. You're going to be uncomfortable. If you can work through that together,
Yeah.
oh man, coming out of that, my group here that's in this building, out of COVID, we all were together fighting every day just to get through it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it was tough, but boy, did it make us a hell of a lot stronger and closer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I see some similarities
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
And in networking, but also just in the culture of companies. How do you build that kind of culture without having to go through something traumatic, right?
Yeah. Well, what I tell people is, I don't care about your religion. I don't care about your politics. I don't care about who you go to bed with. I don't care about any of that. you have that DNA running through you. You have that caring gene. We all do. We let money get in the way. And if you can stop and just pull back from that and just for a moment realize, okay, yeah, that person annoys the hell out of me, but they have a family they're trying to feed, and they might be misguided in how they're doing things, but they're really just a person like I am. And if I can dig down into my humanity and really lean into, okay, I want to help this person. I want just a little bit.
Right.
Things are going to be better, and we're hardwired to help one another. You guys stayed while I had a broken femur. Right. I'm going to return that somehow.
Right.
And we don't consciously think about those things, but our subconscious is really kind of dialed into those sorts of things. So the whole notion of know, like, and trust is, it's just rooted in who we are if we let it.
Right. We have to be open to it.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this short message. Hey, it's Todd again. Did you know that mental fitness is the secret weapon for transformational leadership? Your mind may be sabotaging you, leading you down a path of stress and negativity. But it doesn't have to be this way. If you're ready to unlock the resilience to empower yourself and the team you lead, listen up. Through the Positive Intelligence Program, PQ for short, I help leaders build mental strength, manage stress, and boost emotional intelligence. Imagine reducing burnout, improving your relationships, and increasing performance, all backed by neuroscience. I'm living proof of its power, having built my own mental fitness with PQ over the last 5 years. Ready to build yours? Visit toddbirch.com or email me at tb@toddbirch.com for a free consultation. Now let's get back to the show. So continuing on that path, Frank, and know, like, and trust, how do we integrate that into networking, right?
Yeah. Well, what I tell people is the best way to get things from your network is to do things for your network. It's really that simple. And a lot of times people think, you have to give to your network, and their mind goes to their wallet or their credit card, or I really don't have anything to give. One of the questions I get a lot when I'm on podcasts is, what's the one thing somebody could do today to change their situation, to just to get out there and get networked? And I always tell people, my consistent answer is, find something you care about and volunteer, whatever it is. Don't be strategic about it. I don't care about homelessness, but the rich people are there helping the homeless, so I'm going to go do that. No, what do you care about? If it's youth sports, if it's whatever, get out there and volunteer, because you're going to be elbow to elbow with other people who care about the same thing, and they're going to figure out what you're about. They're never going to have to ask, what's that Todd about? Mm-hmm. They'll figure that out. But even the people who aren't involved in that are going to look on and say, wow, he really does a great job with this sports organization, or this homelessness or pet charity, or whatever it might be. He's got to be a good person. Again, it gets back to this healed femur thing. We're always looking subconsciously. We don't know it, but we're looking for people who care about other people. And so to be successful in networking is just finding ways you can help other people. Jason connecting us. Mm-hmm. It helped me, right? I'm here.
Right.
Hopefully it helps you. It's like, okay, what can I do for Jason?
Right.
So it's really just about finding ways to help other people. And whenever, as humans, we're kind of dialed into self-preservation. So a lot of times people, when they meet somebody, it's like, okay, what can I get from Todd? Mm-hmm. Can I get him to be a client? Can I get him to whatever? What can I sell him?
Right.
And what I tell people is that's your first thought, and that makes you human,
mm-hmm.
right? But dial into what your second thought is, and it's really more of a conscious thought of, okay, my first thought is, which is very human, is what can I get? The second thought is, what can I do for this person? Mm-hmm. And go through your mind and say, okay, who can I connect Todd to that maybe Todd can help? Or who can help Todd?
Right.
How can I serve Todd? And that just becomes much more powerful in the long run, because then you're starting to build this network of people out there, formally and informally, that feel like, okay, want to help this person.
Right. Yeah, it reminds me of, are you a John Maxwell fan?
Yeah.
He had this powerful phrase. One of his shows, he says, every conversation that he has, networking, meeting somebody new, he ends a conversation with this statement: how can I help you?
Yeah.
How can I help you?
Yeah.
And that's simple, right?
Yeah.
It's a simple thing.
Well, a lot of people feel put on the spot with respect to that. And I'm not always ready either, and that's okay. I think it's great that people ask those things. What I try to do is I try to just look and just kind of go through my mind and like, okay, what could help Todd? Like you and I were talking before we hit record. Hey, I met this guy over in the UK.
Right.
He's a marketing person.
Right.
He's got a top 10 podcast.
Right.
Todd, I need to introduce you to him.
Right.
So
you're already being proactive, thinking about that.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people are, right? I think that's at least one reminder, right? Just if you're not constantly thinking about that, just think about that question. Make sure that at least gets mentioned if it doesn't happen organically.
Yeah.
What can I do for you?
There's a book out there. It's called Option B. Sheryl Sandberg wrote it with Dr. Adam Grant. And
okay.
It's a great little book.
Option B.
Option B.
Okay.
Yeah, she wrote it on the heels of the death of her husband. They were on vacation. I think he was like 45 years old. He was on the treadmill and just had an aneurysm and died.
Oh, those stories, I just don't understand that.
Yeah.
I can't fathom.
So she just was kind of working through her grief in there. But I mean, it wasn't just about that. There was a lot of actionable business stuff. But one of the things she talked about in there that really resonated with me is when people are hit with these tragedies, we'll say, hey, tell me what you need, anything you need. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And that really kind of puts the onus on them to come up with something, right? And they don't, because it's like, well, there are things, but I don't know if I'm going to ask for too much. Yeah. And so what she says is, and I guess this is an option B, is just going to the person and just doing something. You know what? I know you lost your spouse. I'm coming over to mow the yard. I'm going to mow the yard this whole summer. If you want me to stop, just tell me. But I'm going to mow the yard, or I'm going to arrange for it to be mowed. It's one thing you don't need to worry about. And then they don't have to ask. So just looking at somebody and saying, okay, what are things that could help this person? And just kind of conditioning your mind to ask that question. They might not have an answer as to how you can help them, but you can probably come up with an answer for them. And a lot of times the best thing we can share in our network is just our network itself, right? I know this guy in the UK. I know Todd, I could be a broker, try and make some money between these two. I could just introduce them and say, you guys have at it, go make $1 million. I don't care.
Yeah.
So
I absolutely love that, Frank, especially in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Because you have somebody who is obviously grieving, but they're probably inundated with a ton of decisions and choices they need to make. This is one more. So you're, in fact,
burdening them.
You're adding more stress and anxiety to them. Just do something. Send them a gift basket, or some fruit, or make them dinner, or just pop over. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Right? Every little thing's going to help, right? I love that. And I think it goes back to a couple of things we're saying here, being proactive. Just being proactive. In order to do some of these things, I think it's key, and tell me if you agree, like you have to take the time to get to know somebody, right? You
absolutely.
Generally need to take the time to get to know somebody, right? Really understand who they are, what they do, what they care about before you can have that thought of being proactive.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an investment you need to make in other people.
Investment.
Yeah.
Investment.
And it's not necessarily a lot of time. It's listening to little things. Like you are on my podcast. I love your story, and I've shared your story. I was talking to a woman yesterday in Chicago, and she's kind of into just mindfulness and stuff like that. And it's you kind of hang on to those things. Our brains are really amazing. Because we can hang on to you really remember everything. Recall's the problem, right?
Yes, recall is the problem.
It recalls the problem.
It's my problem.
Yeah, but if you listen for little things, Okay, here's the trigger point. I just connected 2 people last week. It's like, okay, they're both very spiritual, and they're both really focused in on not cures, but people who are going through struggles with cancer. Totally different things. But it's like, you 2 need to meet. I don't know where it's going to go. It's not for me to judge and look into the future and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. I just know you guys are going to have a wonderful conversation because you're both really rooted in Christianity. And you really care about people who are struggling with cancer. You guys figure out where the synergy is, what happens from this.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of this too comes back to time. A lot of people say, well, I hate networking. Yeah. I hate to network. It's too much time. I don't get anything out of it. Or they're an introvert, right?
Yep.
And they're just not a people person, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what do you say to somebody who's an introvert and or is ho-hum about the time that's going to be spent networking? Any tips, tricks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an introvert. I
would never have guessed.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think introverts have an advantage because introverts are listeners.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, and I think that's, I deal with extroverts, and it's like every question is a setup for a monologue for them. You know what I mean?
It can be.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think introverts really have an advantage. I get what you're saying about people saying, well, networking can be a waste of time. My pushback is everyone networks. We all network, How'd you meet your wife, right? How do you guys find babysitters? We're always networking. Networking is just a word that we use to describe building relationships. So we're always building relationships. We need to build relationships. You don't need to go to a networking event to do that. You can have a one-on-one. You and I are networking right now, right? Sending emails, we're networking. I'm not entirely comfortable going to networking events either. In fact, I've interviewed a few introverts on my podcast who, made a business out of helping other introverts. And this one woman, she just shared, you know what? I'll go to an event. I'll stay for 30 minutes. It's 2 hours. I'll go 30 minutes. I'll meet a couple of people. I'm out of there. Okay. So, I think we all do it. We're all networking. It might be with our neighbor. It might be with whomever. So don't feel like you need to be going to networking events. Well, I've already said, just volunteer. I mean, that's huge right there. Right. I know people who that's pretty much what they do. They've just met a ton of people just being out there. And they don't feel like they're networking because they're working shoulder to shoulder with other people who care about pets or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you still need to take the time though, right? Mm-hmm. You have to at least put yourself out there, and you have to get to know people. But I love the piece about being an active listener, and I think that goes back to being able to just pause, right? Instead of coming in hot or reacting, just being able to sit back, take it in, reflect, listen. And again, don't make it all about yourself, right? And then think about what you can do to help them. And I know you're a big fan. I've heard you mention it. I'm a big fan as well of The Go-Giver. Yeah. So we got to give a shout out to Bob Berg and that amazing book and that servant leadership. So how do you think that plays into networking?
Well, I mean, it's again, we got to help people. You've got to find ways to help people, and Bob will tell you. Bob, shout out to Bob. Have you ever had Bob on your show?
I hope to at some point. I haven't reached out yet, but
I'm telling you right now, he will say yes.
Yeah.
Well, right. I'm pretty sure he'll say yes.
Yeah, that would be.
Drop my name. Just say, hey, I was talking to Frank Agin, and because I was coming up on my 100th episode, I'm like, what am I going to do for my 100th episode?
Oh boy.
And he just happened to. LinkedIn suggested I connect with him. I'm like, I met Bob in the 90s when he was first getting started through the other organization. Okay. We met in Youngstown. He gave a speech there. And I just sent him a note and said, hey, would you connect with me? We met in Youngstown, blah, blah, blah. I gave him the context. And right away, it's like, oh, yeah, great. Love to connect with you. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there thinking my 100th episode, my daughter helped me get started. Maybe I'll have my daughter on. She's like, why do you want to talk to me? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ask Bob. I'm just going to ask him. and what's the worst that can happen, right?
Right.
Nobody's going to know that he turned me down,
Right.
And he couldn't have been more gracious. Absolutely, let's do it.
Right.
And set it up, and I'm like, hey, do you know anybody else who would want to be on here? Yeah, I absolutely do. By the end of the week, I had 6 other people, good people. It really changed the trajectory of what I was doing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, rather than just interviewing, my members, which they're good people, but it's I'm dealing with people who are Bob Berg level, Lewis Howes level type people.
That's a different.
It's a different
level.
Yeah. Rather than just talking to people about networking, it's like, okay, really getting into it.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of took us off track with the whole Bob Berg.
That's
thing,
okay, but it's worth it.
Yeah, no,
So,
but he's all about. My point with respect to Bob is he walks the talk.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people out there have written a lot of books on networking, and I'll get them on the phone and interview them, and it's, hey, thanks for helping me, Frank. Here are 6 other ways you can help me, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I'm happy to. I don't have a problem with that, but it's, I can see that it's really all about you. Whereas with respect to Bob, he's just always been very gracious with, responding and genuinely, he'll tell people, Frank's the expert on networking. What are you talking about? You're the expert,
Right.
I appreciate it, but it's, it's just, he's just a wonderful person.
Yeah. Servant leadership.
Yep.
The Go-Giver. If you don't have it, that should be a staple book on your shelf, right?
Yeah, well, there's a whole Go-Giver for salespeople, Goal-Giver for marriage. Yeah, it's amazing.
I haven't read any of the other ones. But
no, I haven't either. But it's just,
I give that book out more than probably any other book.
Yeah.
So we got to talk about LinkedIn a little bit.
Yep.
Obviously, I think a lot of people will associate networking to some degree with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
What's your take on LinkedIn as a tool for networking?
Well, it is. It's just a tool.
Yeah.
People will say to me, networking, you don't, LinkedIn, we don't need to do it anymore. It's like, you know what? We networked before we had telegraph. We networked before we had telephone, mobile phones. We've networked since the beginning of time. I have a friend, he says networking is as old as dirt, and he's right. It's been around, healed femur, that's networking, right? That just goes back to when we were nomadic.
Right.
All LinkedIn has done is it allowed us to connect with people 24 hours a day across the continent. I'm going to be on a program in 2 weeks out of Australia. A guy I've met through LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Now, the time is kind of wonky, right?
Yeah.
And we have to work that out, that we got to, most of the time he's asleep, I'm awake, and vice versa.
Yeah.
There are pockets there. We can make it work. Mm-hmm. And we do a lot of things together. But LinkedIn has really allowed us to connect with people. So what I say about LinkedIn is this, is that it's really a giant business after hours. Millions of people going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it allows you to walk into a scenario and know what people are about. So, for example, I'm introduced to you. I can get on LinkedIn and I know, okay, he's got a podcast, this, and this. I know those things. Whereas when I walk into a traditional networking event, I might see you with your Ignite Your Spark t-shirt and make all sorts of judgments about, what the hell is that?
Right.
Is that a women's basketball team, or I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But now I know, so I know. Okay, he, like with Jason Zagato. Oh, he went to Kent State. Okay,
right.
And there were just lots of little things there that I knew ahead of talking to Jason that could be talking points.
Right.
So that's the beauty of LinkedIn. But relationships are still relationships. I always tell people, babies still come from the same place.
Yeah.
Right? So none of that has changed. It just allows us the ability to connect with people further and faster.
Yeah. Have you seen that it's been a good tool for you in making like meaningful relationships?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I would imagine you probably get a ton of requests like I do. I get a ton of in-mails and requests from all over the world, and it's time, right? It's time to go through each one of those and figure out, do I even try to engage in a conversation with this person or not? Because it goes back to just time. Yeah, no,
you have to be very judicious with your time with respect to that. And anymore, I'll quickly vet somebody, Hey, I'm a podcast promotion expert. Well, I know where this is going, right?
Right.
I'm going to connect with you, and then I'm going to get pitched, and I don't need that. But with a lot of people, it's not. You start to sort it out, to be able to sort it out. Okay, I'm looking for somebody that I can help, that is going to help me, and you can start to sort those things out. But yeah, I've gotten things through there. Nobody buys anything on LinkedIn. Nobody, hey, we're gonna hire Evolve. We saw a post.
Right.
And I shouldn't say nobody, because I had a conversation. I had a woman on my interview where she said that she has gotten clients just off of LinkedIn. But as we talked about it, it was like, okay, it wasn't off of LinkedIn. You guys were shooting messages back and forth. You did some programs shooting messages back and forth, and she decided to hire you. But there was a relationship that was established. LinkedIn, people look at LinkedIn as this kind of this advertising vehicle, and it's not. It's a vehicle for creating relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is one strategy that people often overlook when they're trying to generate more referrals?
Well, I mentioned volunteering. Got ahead of myself there, but yeah, I certainly mentioned volunteering. Finding ways to help other people is really what it boils down to. I did this exercise years ago. Actually, one of my books out there is called the Giving Journal. Very short book, and it was a offshoot of just something I had tried. Somebody remarked to me, "Oh, I'm really, really generous. I'm always generous." And I'm thinking to myself, that SOB is anything but. You're the most tight. I'm not saying this, but I'm thinking, you're not generous. You don't give to people.
Right.
But in that person's mind, they were fixated on money they had given to church, and like they were just hanging their hat on this one thing, and that, and we're all delusional that we're better than we are.
Right.
And so it got me thinking, I wonder if I'm like that. I don't want to be that. I want to truly be a giver. And so what I set out to do was just keep track of what I was giving. And so I just got a simple little notebook, and I would write down, right? Hey, spend an hour mentoring Jason on his business, right?
So it wasn't just fiscally, it was time, talent.
Yeah, none of it was fiscal. Well, some of it might have been, right? But most of what we do is, hey, I'm volunteering, went to a board meeting, I'm giving, send somebody a book, send somebody an article, introduce these two people. And what I found was I would just write the date, and I wasn't keeping score. Oh, Todd, you need to get, done a lot for Todd, and he'd get some back from, it wasn't that at all. Right. Nobody knew I was even doing it. And so I just write the date and what I did. What I found was that journal called to me. Oh, you haven't done something in a couple days. I need to do something. And that really got me thinking about, okay, it got me in tune to, and whenever I talk to somebody, okay, what can I do for that person? And it just kind of got me in that little habit of, okay, how can I help somebody? And it does take time. I'll have a conversation with somebody, and I might have 15 minutes afterwards. Okay, I'm sending them this article. They'd never heard about the healed femur story. Let me send them a link to that. Doing things, but it really builds up. But I guess the big thing I'll say is this: there's a book out there called Give and Take by Adam Grant. I don't know if you've read that book.
No.
Okay. He's a Wharton School professor, and he talks about different giving styles, and it's a wonderful book. I will send you an outline to it. I've read it so many times I outlined it. It's like 15 pages, so you don't get the stories, but you'll get the gist, and maybe
the Cliff Notes.
Yeah, Cliff Notes. But he talks in there about the 5-minute favor.
Okay.
Always be willing to do a 5-minute favor for somebody. Yeah, it's 5 minutes, but it's a favor, and it might be 5 minutes out of your life, but it might be hours into theirs. You don't know.
5-minute favor.
Yeah, it's a 5-minute favor.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, always be willing to just give somebody 5 minutes. So I was doing some research for a speech I was giving, and I saw a study that he'd referenced in the book, and I just emailed him, or maybe it was LinkedIn, whatever. I just sent him a message. I don't know, he might respond, he might not, but I'm going to ask him, right?
Yeah.
Hey, can you tell me where I could get this the abstract for this study, or where I could, get more information on this. Oh, I'll do you one better. He gave me the whole damn study. Again, 5 minutes. It's in his inbox. It was real easy for him. He just did it. And we just need to be open to let's just do. I'm just going to do something for somebody. I'm going to make a point of holding the door open for people. I'm going to make a point of doing this. I'm going to just little things, and those little things lead to bigger things. We just kind of become habitual. It's holding the door. I'm going to have a conversation with this person too.
Yeah, I love it. 5-minute favor, the giving journal. Yeah. Great idea. Yeah. I have a little bullet journal I created, and I have a little section. I call it the mission. Right. It's more related to giving. Yeah. More nonprofits, time, talents. But that's interesting to have one specifically for giving and just document it. Yeah. Keep track of it. Yeah.
Well, the giving journal is just kind of my journey into coming up with the notion of it. Yeah. It's not really a journal to write in. I thought about doing that, but it's like, I don't want to be just selling paper to people. Yeah. Go get your own notebook.
Yeah. True. That's true.
Yeah. And it's free. I have it on my blog, and people can download it. So people can buy it too if they want a physical copy. But if it's on my blog. Okay. So
we'll add that in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah.
For sure. Well, this has been great, Frank.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. A couple of lightning round questions here. Real quick ones. If you could go back and give your younger self any advice, what would that be?
Yeah, it's networking. Yeah. I went off to college to play football, hung out at small D3 school, hung out with the football players for 4 years. God, I wish I would have just connected with other people,
Right.
Yeah.
Go back in time.
Yeah.
Who is a leader that you admire?
I admired Lewis Howes. Lewis is somebody that he calls me his mentor. I've learned a lot from him. We had lunch years and years ago, and I tell people that the ROI on that lunch for both of us is just off the charts.
Yeah. So that's awesome. And one word that defines your leadership style.
Empathetic.
I thought you might go there. No, I was thinking it.
Okay. Yeah.
About you. Cool. I love that. And what's the most important lesson you've learned in life?
I don't know everything. And I want to know more. I don't want to be that old codger,
Right.
So I just want to keep learning, and
There's a quote up there on the bolt wall from one of my past guests and good friend, Mark Majors, says, if you're not learning, you're not living.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And that's just it. You got to keep growing.
Yeah.
You got to keep growing, man.
Yeah. It's like a tree. A tree grows until it dies.
That's right. Yeah. My last name's Birch.
Yeah. There you go.
Not spelled like it. No, this has been great, Frank. Thank you so much for being on the show. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
We'll include links to the show notes, your business, your book, 8 books Frank has written. I didn't realize it was that many when I started doing a little more research. I'm like, this guy's cranking out some books.
Yeah, I got lots more coming out. So, keep going.
So, you're constantly just putting stuff out there,
Yeah.
creating, and it sounds like you're happy.
I am. Yeah. I've got friends who are retiring. I've got no interest.
Same here.
Yep, no interest.
No. So. And when you love what you do, why?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not about the money. It's just I'm most happy when I'm creating something or helping people.
Right.
That's it.
There is something in the mind that gives you that instant boost of dopamine, right? When you help somebody.
I think it'll help both of us long term.
Yeah.
Cognitively, physically. I'm waiting for my 100th birthday. I'm gonna keep going. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to continuing the conversation, Frank.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Bolt Podcast. I appreciate you spending some time with us today, and it's been a pleasure being part of your journey toward growth, transformation, and leadership. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and leave a review. It truly helps us reach more people like you. Interested in taking your leadership to the next level? Visit toddbirch.com to learn more about my keynote speaking, corporate training programs, and my positive intelligence coaching. Look, I'm here to help you build the mental resilience and leadership skills that drive lasting change. And remember, progress comes from small, consistent steps. Keep moving forward, my friends. And before we wrap, a quick reminder, the information shared on the Bolt podcast, along with anything from toddbirch.com or my social media channels, is for informational and educational purposes only. We all need support, and if you're seeking meaningful guidance, one of the best things you can do is talk to a licensed professional. Whether that's a physician, therapist, or coach, they can provide the support and care you deserve. The content on this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're facing a medical emergency or need immediate assistance, please reach out to the appropriate healthcare provider or emergency services. Hey guys, take care of yourself, stay kind to your mind, and remember, help is always available when you need it. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.